Welcome to another episode of moneystream.com.au. My name's John, and today we're in the presence of Robert Severini from Random Acts Entertainment, and Robert's going to give us an insight into the history of his musical career here in Melbourne, Australia. It's over to you, Rob.
Okay, buongiorno. You're probably wondering why am I speaking in Italian, because I was born in Italy. I was born in Rome. 20 years to count now, but anyway, I was born in Rome, and I came to Australia in July 1967 as a teenager, and even from then I was very much aware of music, and I wanted to be into music. So even though my background, my family background in Rome, since my grandfather, there were panel beaters, was a natural process that I would be going to the business, which I did when I was about 14, and then came to Australia. My uncle was already here, and he had a panel beater shop in Melbourne. So first thing was, again, into the business of panel beating. But when I first arrived, I went straight into the music, as in learning to play music, or learning music, which brought me to the guitar first of all, and which wasn't my first choice. My first choice was always the bass. The bass was my favorite instrument. And after 2 or 3 years, actually, strangely enough, I was playing already with the guitar, doing little birthday parties at the age of 16, 17, with friends, musicians, and same age, till I got offered, this is in 69, I got offered a residencies to play bass in a club in St Kilda, Upper Esplanade, the ski club, which I suppose doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, so the option was to play bass, because I was already started singing a little bit. So I went out and bought a bass. I went to the gig with the bass, like an imbecile, thinking I can manage this. It was a disaster. First night, I just couldn't coordinate my fingers with my voice. And anyway, I managed with the older musicians. Keep in mind, I wasn't even driving then. I was like 17, and I was working with 40-year-old musicians, so they cover for me, obviously. Very naive, young man trying to be a musician. But things improved. I stuck to the bass, and from one thing to another, I started working. I left the panel beating. I left my uncle, which he was very upset because I dropped him. I left him to go to do music, and of course my father at the time thought I was, what are you doing? You're an imbecile. You live in a good profession to be a bum musician. But I didn't care, and that's when it happens that I got my first real well-paid job. Again, 3 nights a week at the Sky High restaurant in Mount Dandenong, but it was back in 1970. I mean, the money was great. I was getting 4 times or 3 times as much I was getting as an apprentice panel beater. So my father couldn't say anything because I was making more money than him, working 3 days. So that's how I started my career. And then from there I went on to more professionally. I started working in clubs in Melbourne. There was, at that time, clubs had a live band, and the band also backed the shows, whatever there may be, singers, magicians, or whatever it might be. And there was 6 nights a week jobs. So I did a few years of that. And then, of course, that around the late 80s, with the advent of discotheques, the live clubs started dying out, so I moved to restaurant work. Again, working 5 and 6 nights a week. And that went on for lots of years, till about the 90s for me, the early 90s, when that started dying out too. Not the restaurant, but the fact of having a band or a trio playing in a restaurant all those nights was like profitable for the restaurateurs anymore. So we moved to the wedding scenes in the 90s with my band, and we cleaned up because we were coming from an area, especially working in nightclubs at the time, where you have to be a sight reader of shows. So they stick the music in front of you and off you go, basically. So when we moved in with my band, the band was called Life back then. We were at ease with rhythm music. Wasn't any problem for us. Besides, there was a time where every wedding had a show on, would have a singer performing as part of the show, part of the night. So most of the singers at the time were our clients, myself and my partner, our clients. We were the music directors, the music writers for all these shows. So we knew we were doing our own music, basically. So we did for about till about from the 90s to about 2000. But another side of my knowledge was in 1990, I got my cousin. He was doing a travel program on a digital private Italian language radio, and he asked me whether I wanted to be his musical director. So organize music for the show, the introduction music, the ending of the show music, and also organize various guests on the show to discuss about, normally musicians or singers were the guests, and I knew a lot of the musicians and singers at the time, like I do now. So I started doing that with him as a fun thing to do, just getting to a different area of entertainment, radio. Of course, that little private radio became Radio 3 Melbourne. The owner of that small radio bought out 3 so 3 or 3 became the bilingual station, with an Italian English station. And I was made, being the only musician in the radio, I became the artistic director of the radio station for a couple of years. Meaning I was in charge of all the stings, the music, the commercials that went on air. And then I ended up being on air myself with a musical program, I called it Un Pomeriggio Con, an afternoon with, and I would have different guests on every Sunday, singers, musicians, and we'd talk about their careers and so on. I enjoyed doing that because they were colleagues and friends of mine that I knew anyway. We a nice chat on air. And that was great. I enjoyed that. And then what else happened? Oh, I'll tell you what happened. While I was doing that, the new pay TV network was starting in Australia. And there was a network called Australis, which was the first pay TV network. And they bought out a little trial Italian language station called Tele Italia that operated